Okay, quickly. Um, I watched Dracula on Netflix from 2020, and I finished it yesterday. I started it 2 days ago, and then I finished it last night. And I'm not one who likes horror or like gore or like body horror, but I do like vampire stories. And I've read about like 70% of the Dracula book, just because the old timey words are hard for my brain to comprehend. I definitely really liked the story. It wasn't the best adaptation of the book, though. Um, it did feel kind of like when it got to like the adaptation part of the book, it felt a little like derivative, like I've seen it before. But it did only do that for like 5 to 10 minutes of screen time in an hour and a half of the episode, so I was okay with that. The first episode was good and scary and gross. I had to look away for some parts. The first episode ended with Dracula wearing someone's skin and then ripping it off to reveal himself. And that was terrifying. That was probably the grossest thing that I've seen in a long time, because I don't watch body horror shows or movies at all. So it was scary. But then it ended, and I was like, I need to know what happens next. But I waited until the next day to watch that. And then when I got to the second episode, it was slower. You know, it was interesting how it kind of shifted from like someone was telling a story, and then all these things were happening, and then Dracula shows up at the end. And this time Dracula was in the story, but he was telling a story to someone else. And I did like that it was subversive the whole time. So it took me a second to realize what was happening, why we were seeing this way. And the show actually fooled me. I didn't see the ending coming when it came, so that was fun. And then the very end of the episode was a shock to me, because the way that it was edited made it seem like Dracula got into his box of dirt and then sank to the bottom of the ocean, and then immediately got out and came up to shore. So it was shocking when we find out he's in the present day. But I did really like that ending, because as far as we knew, the nun was dead, and now she's standing here, but it's not her. I really liked the actress. It was Sister Agatha and then Zoe Helsing. She was great. I really liked how she differentiated her accents enough so that when she was Sister Agatha, you could definitely tell that was Sister Agatha, and then when she was Zoe, definitely looked like her still, but she sounded different, so it didn't seem like the same person when we saw her in episode 2. And then when episode 3 started, I really liked that short little thing where we can see Dracula kind of getting used to the modern world, and he drinks a modern person's blood, so he's able to know what things are called, like the phone. I liked how friendly he was. Like, obviously, he killed this woman's husband, but like he was so friendly with her. Terrifying, but it really plays into the fact that the entire show he was saying like, I love people. Like, yeah, he eats people, he drinks their blood, but that's how he gets to know them even more, and he takes them in and keeps them. Like, when he first meets Jonathan, he says, I'll learn English when I absorb you, which sounds weird, but it makes sense in the fact that he drinks the blood and understands that person's life. And throughout the show, they repeat, blood is lives, which I don't like how it's phrased, but I understand the sentiment. And I love that it carries through. Like, he says he enjoys people. He loves people, and he loves eating them, but he loves to be around them. And we see it in episode 2 where, like, he's obviously looking for someone's blood to drink, but he is enjoying the conversation, and he's enjoying being with this person. And he he's talking to one lady that he wants to drink her blood, But then there's another guy that speaks German, and the lady speaks German, but Dracula doesn't remember German very well. So he kills the guy so that he can talk to the lady in German and impress her. And I thought that was really funny because he wants to impress her. It doesn't matter that he's going to kill her in 5 minutes. He wants to impress her. And then I think the last episode was okay. It kind of lost me with the modern stuff a bit, and I really didn't like Lucy. She was so vague. If that's, like, she wasn't, like, fleshed out. She was very vague, and it was hard for me to, like, get attached to her just because she was only there for, like, this much, and then she's gone. I definitely really liked the ending. I think it was a very impactful ending. And I do like how they used the inspiration of the Dracula book, but then one thing changed so that what happened in the book didn't actually happen for 123 years. Which is weird that it was such a specific 123 years, but I think they wanted it to be set in, like, because it was 1897, so they wanted it to be set in 2020 because the show came out in 2020. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. It's such a weird 123 years later. Because maybe the Dracula book came out in 1897. Let me check. Here is Dracula. As I said, I'm about maybe 80% of the way through. It's so hard to read. It's not the words that are difficult, it's just there's so many words. I mean, that's one paragraph. That takes up 3/4 of the page. That's one paragraph, and that's on page 2. So many words. It's not that I'm expecting pictures, it's just, like, I'm used to a very different kind of formatting when I read stuff. Haha. This Dover edition, first published in 2000, is an unabridged, unaltered republication of a standard edition of the work, originally published in 1897 by Constable & Co., London. Okay, so the book came out in 1897, so the book must have been set in 1897, so that's why the show was set in 1897, and then they did 123 years because the show came out in 2020, so they wanted it to be set in 2020, instead of having it be the future, which I guess that's fine, but also for a work being set in 2020 and it doesn't mention at all the pandemic is weird, but it's also not bad. Like, I don't want it to mention the pandemic because the way they talk about Dracula in the show already is like a contagion, like a sickness. So I don't love that kind of parallel there. So I'm glad they didn't put the pandemic in the show. Anyways, I'm rambling. The point is, I liked the themes that Dracula absorbs people by drinking their blood, and he carries them with him. I think that's very interesting. I like that he chooses people for their blood specifically. Like, he doesn't want to just drink a random party person. He wants someone who, like, they have knowledge. Like, he wanted to drink a scientist. He said it was a shame that he didn't get to drink the scientist because he loves science and knowledge. And then he drank, like I said earlier, the German guy. And then with Jonathan at the very beginning of the episode, he drank him so that he would have knowledge of England and English and be able to understand what England was like before going there, because clearly in Wallachia, he was extremely isolated. I thought it was really interesting, but also kind of a different take on when Dracula bites someone, they become undead, but they're not specifically a vampire. So I feel like the rules were kind of wishy-washy. They weren't, like, explicit. Like, for Jonathan, he was drained of blood and then killed, and then he was undead. It was stated that he wasn't specifically a vampire, and then he drank blood, and then he looked like a vampire. So it would make sense that you have to be drained and then die and then drink blood and then you become a vampire. But it wasn't explicitly stated, so it's difficult to understand if that's what's happened or not. I think episode 1 followed the book very closely, so it was a little bit slow, but because the book is slow. The book is the slowest burn of all burns, and it's their book is made up of Jonathan Harker's journal, letters between Lucy and Mina, and then Mina's journal, and then a cutting from a newspaper, and then more journals, and then more journals, and like Dr. Seward, and then it's Mina Harker's, and then Dr. Seward's, and then Van Helsing. Anyways, it's letters and a newspaper and journals, so it's all like information that people have to be told, or they're writing down like, oh, I found this out, and I'm writing it down, and it just takes a while for things to happen. So in a film, it's very hard to capture that because you can't just have like The Office where they have testimonials where they say like, oh, I saw this and it was weird. It's just, it plays out differently because you can't adapt this accurately without it being extremely boring, unfortunately. And then the second episode was nice because it was a shift to more of something more like a murder mystery, except we know who the murderer is. So that was interesting. But I didn't love that we got introduced to these characters and then they just died. And then there were a couple of people who made it out, but we never saw them again. So they're fine. And then episode 3 was just like very strange. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I was a tad disappointed, but it was interesting how it played out, and then I did like the ending a lot. Like, it didn't make me tear up, but it was like, oh, it's over. That was nice. I don't know if I'd watch it again, only because the gross bits were really gross. And I don't like body horror. But I may watch it again to understand more things that happened, but I think I got the gist of it, and it's not that it's a superficial story, but it's something that you don't need to watch a million times to get everything. Like with Into the Spider-Verse, that one's one where you can watch it a million times and find a new joke or a new thing in the background. Or like even Lego Batman, there's so many things that happen in those movies. You have to watch it a million times and you will still find new things. But this one wasn't that. It was just straightforward. But it definitely had depth to it. It was good. It was just gross. So I don't think I'd watch it again. It helped me open my horizons a little bit more to horror, the horror genre. So that's good, but it's still gross. Thanks for watching. I know it's been forever since I posted a video. Yeah. That's all I'd like to say about that. For now, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Bye.